Hey everyone, Eric Rodabois. So I want to do a deeper dive on how to potentially have more privacy on the internet. And so there are a lot of public records. Almost every court record is public. And so if you've been involved in a lawsuit, that record will potentially be out there forever. If you buy and sell real estate and your name is on a deed, those records are pretty easy to find. And if you start a company, most states, I say most, and that's what I'm mostly going to focus on in this video, most states put a lot of public information about the people involved in the company. And so when I'm training my law clerks, which are law students, I want them to be very adept at going into public databases, right? Just get on your computer, know what to Google. And so, for example, if you know where someone lives, at least you know the county. And sometimes I know the town, but I don't even know the county. So I'll Google the name of the town and I'll ask what county. And then it'll tell me what county it is. And then I'll do another Google search where I'll search the name of the county property search. And so for most counties, and I have yet to find one where I've been looking and I couldn't find anything, you can easily find the property records. So right here in Miami-Dade County, I just go Miami property search and the county has its own website and you can search by the address or you can actually search by the owner's name. Now, if you have a very common name, it might be hard to sift through it. I did a search for a relatively common name and there were 55 different records in Miami-Dade County of people with the same name owning real estate. But if you have a unique name, it might be relatively easy to find where that person lives. And so there are ways to take your name off the internet. I had a client who was a minor internet celebrity and she got a stalker. And the stalker was able to find out where she lived and start sending hate mail to her house. And this obviously deeply concerned my client. And so what we did is we created a land trust and then we put a third party. So when you create a trust, it'll have the name of the trust as the new owner. That's what we did. We created a trust and then we transferred the ownership from her to this trust. And we, instead of naming the trust after her, which is a very common thing to do, like the Eric Rodabois Revocable Trust, we named it something whimsical, like the name of the street she grew up on, the Derbyshire Place Family Trust. And so, and by the way, that's where I grew up on, not her street. In any case, and so then next to the name of the trust in the property records, it'll have the name of the trustee. And so obviously she didn't want to be the trustee because then her name would be right there and the stalker potentially would be able to find her. So in her situation, she and her husband had different last names. And so it wasn't easy to connect the dots. And so we put her husband as the trustee. Or in another situation, the client asked me to be the trustee. And I said, listen, we can use professional trustees. We just charge a fee for our service. And so that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you have a company records in most states, so in particular here in Florida, if you go to the state division of corporations, and so for example, if I don't know what that website is, I go to Google. So I might type South Carolina company search, New York company search, Florida company search. And what that'll do in our state is bring up sunbiz.org. Now, sunbiz.org is the state website where you can search any company record. Now in Florida, you have to have a mailing address, a principal address, a registered agent with an address, and at least one officer, director, manager, or owner listed. Now, since it's or, I always tell my clients, don't advertise that you're the owner, right? So maybe you're the manager, but it can be ambiguous of who the owner is. Or maybe, by the way, I can have Kaylin be the manager, but she might not own the company, and I could own the company and want to keep my name off the internet. So a lot of times people don't know this, and so they'll go ahead and put their home address, they'll put their personal information, and so if somebody is ever looking for dirt or information and snooping around, public database searches, I can pretty much connect the dots, and sometimes people put it right there that they're the owner of that LLC. Now, there could be a compelling reason why you don't want that to be out there. And so there are certain states with very high levels of privacy. So Delaware and Wyoming are two of the most popular. If you do Delaware company search, maybe I know the name of the LLC or corporation, but when I look it up, it's not going to give me any names of officers, directors, managers, owners, anything. And in fact, all it'll be is a P.O. Box company that charges $99 a year. And it'll be hard for some internet sleuth to connect the dots. Maybe not impossible, but hard. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll create structures where we'll have a holding company in Delaware or Wyoming owning and managing a Florida operating company, and then that is one way that we can do to keep the identity of the parties behind the scenes a little bit more opaque and a little bit more confidential. If you guys have any questions about this, I can talk about this for hours. Leave a comment below or reach out to me. Happy to jump on a call. Thanks.